Yeah, I mean, my brother has a story, but I wanted to save that maybe for another episode. But yeah, I mean, I've heard several accounts, but his was definitely the most compelling. I mean, I guess I could tell it, and then, if he wants to
All
come
right.
on and give a personal account, he can do that. But we were living at home. We were just kids, and I was actually taking a bath. That's how long ago this was. People took baths back then. I was just getting ready to graduate from high school, so we were older. But I was in the tub and I had my class ring. So I guess it's kind of an account from both of us. But I had my class ring and I had it on the windowsill. They were the big, thick kind of windowsills back then. It was an older house. And all of a sudden, there was this vibration in the house, right? Oh, look how I did that. Pretty good, huh? But there was a vibration in the house, and all of a sudden, my class ring bounced off the thing. And I literally thought we were having an earthquake. It was like this intense, like humming, like I thought it was like an earthquake or so. I didn't know what the hell it was. And then all of a sudden, my brother, man, he was upstairs. It was an old Cape Cod house, and it had like the peak top where there was still a room with the old, and a lot of people probably maybe have this in their house or grew up that way, but they were like the knotty pine slats on the ceiling that went up, and I think it went up like this, and then there was some tiles right in the middle, but on the sides. So when a car would come, we lived on a hill. When a car would come up the hill, the lights would hit on the side of the road and they go about halfway around and then they would disappear because, of course, the lights were past the house. So I'm like, Jeff, what the hell's going on? And I was already freaked out because of what happened when I was in the tub. And he said, Tim, shit. He goes, I never seen anything like it. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, I was laying in bed. And of course, for the first thing you're going to ask him after he recounts the story, because back then there was rampant marijuana use. Were you high or had you been drinking? But no, he was perfectly stone cold sober. And he said, and the light came up like we see at night, and instead of going past, it started going around the room. And he said, I got up, I looked outside of the window, and probably this was close. I mean, it was no more probably than 200 or 300 yards away. He said he saw in the air almost like a gyroscope, and that's where that vibration was coming from. It was going woo, 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 and then the middle part, was moving really, really slowly, right? So he said, then all of a sudden it's sitting there. He goes, I was fascinated by it. I'm watching it, and all of a sudden it's going voo, voo, voo. And then all of a sudden the middle part started spinning faster and it just went voo, 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 and then gone. It just shot off and it was gone. But it wasn't just like saw it off in the distance. I mean, it was like perched over the houses in the neighborhood, and it had the lights and the whole shot. But you hear some of these stories about like gyroscopes and different shapes and stuff and magnets and things like that, and you always wonder if technology in another species or race or whatever, maybe all you have to do is at some point in history, even if you're not more advanced, some point in history, maybe you take another, you zig instead of zagging, like maybe the human species did or something, and it takes you down that another pathway, so, and it depends on the people too, so I was amazed by that. Jeff, he was a hunter and everything. He didn't scare easy, and he saw that, and I was just like, wow. I mean, now I didn't see it, but I felt it. I felt something
You
making
heard
that
it?
noise. I heard it, and it, like I said, it bounced my class ring right off the windowsill. It wasn't something like, it wasn't stealthy, okay? This thing was like, I don't give a shit if people see it or not. We're going to check this out and look at it, and who knows what it was. I mean, maybe it was some kind of a government experiment or something like that, but it made you sit up and pay attention, that's for sure.
When you say about it being like a gyroscope or gyros, Is it a gyro or a gyro?
I think it's a
or
gyroscope.
Or is it a gyro?
if it's edible,
Or is it a gyro?
it's a gyroscope. But if
It's a
it's
gyroscope if it comes from Greece?
right, if it's a lamb, if it's made out of lamb.
Okay.
No, it's a gyroscope. I think that's what they are.
But Close Encounters of the Third Kind had those kind of like twisty little lighty ships, you remember? So you're saying it was almost something like that.
Somewhat, yeah. I mean, it was like a almost like a sphere inside of a sphere, like, spinning in two different directions. And I guess the velocity of each of the sphere kind of determined direction and the speed and everything. It was really kind of cool. I didn't see it, but that's why I'd like to have Jeff, my brother. Sorry, Jeff, I threw your name out there. They're coming with the nets, buddy. Yeah.
Now, did Jeff say how big this was, or is it kind of hard to tell?
It's kind of hard to tell, but it was massive. It wasn't like a small little anomaly, like you see. And that's one thing I see. We've had several discussions on Skinwalker Ranch, and it's like they see these anomalies, and they're like, the one guy's like, yeah, it's like it was like just 100 yards right above the mesa over there. And it's like, it's like if it was that bright and it was 100 yards above there, it's like it must have been the size of like a tennis ball or something is what I'm thinking, because I don't see, you know what I mean?
How can you tell?
If you look at it and it was that close to the ground, it doesn't look big at all. But this thing was massive. It was almost like the big thing that just came up out of a lake or something. And it was just this big, massive ship. And it was just there, for long enough for him to lay eyes on it for just like a minute. And then almost like maybe it was surveying something or whatever. And then because it came out of nowhere.
But nobody, you didn't hear that anybody else saw it, like
nope.
At school? Or is this your older brother or younger brother?
My younger brother. And you know what's weird? You know what's weird about it? And we've interviewed people that have equated like aliens to, and this is, I thought about this, last night I was thinking about it, but we interviewed somebody that had equated like aliens and spirits, like ghosts and things, like they were both from a different, like a similar realm or something like that. And the funny thing is, I've told that story about being down at my girlfriend's house and the all the weird stuff that was going on. The funny thing is, where this spacecraft was hovering was right above the lake that was right by their house.
Really?
So it was like right there.
Well, real quick, retell the Reader's Digest version, your story of the girlfriend. We have an episode of that, but real quick.
Yeah, I'm kind of a jokester. I always have been. I like to play pranks and have fun. So she lived in an old sandstone house, typical Victorian, big wooden solid doors, balcony, baby grand piano in the foyer. Beautiful, big, giant house. But it was built back in the day when they did, sandstone, big blocks and stuff for the building materials and things like that. So there was a rumor that there was some guy, the previous owner, was buried under the piano. The baby grand piano in the front room there on the side. And so I went down and said, I'm going to scare the shit out of her. So I'm trying to think of some stuff. And I thought of like, I'm going to describe this guy and say he was like talking to me or whatever. I'm just going to say. So I went down there and said, the weirdest thing, I caught this image in my head and I started describing this guy. She pulled out a picture and it was the guy. They'd had a picture from the guy that owned the house before. It was the guy to the T. I mean, I'd never seen the guy before, heard him, but I described him to a T. And then, so I was just like, well, that was strange. She went in to make a sandwich. I sat in the front room, and all of a sudden there was a hammered out knob, like a cast iron knob on the inside of the door. And all of a sudden it's just shaking like crazy. And I was just like, I thought nothing of it. I go, Denise, your parents are home. Your parents are home. I'm a kid. I'm in high school. I wasn't paying much attention to anything, setups and everything. But she did come in and she opened up the door wide and she goes, there's nobody here. And that's when I caught that the outside door, put two and two together, the outside of the door, there was a latch, just a curved latch that you press down. Now, when you press down on the latch, the doorknob doesn't move. Okay. So something was shaking that doorknob, and then we walked over by the door. I'm like, well, that's weird. And all of a sudden, all the pictures on the wall just went cockeyed of her like family on the wall. So freaked out, yeah, pretty freaked out. And then you start to wonder, people say your mind can do crazy things. So it's like, did I cause that, or was it something in the house, or was it a combination of both? It's like really weird. That's the only time, Mark, that I'd ever experienced or even really felt like weird in the house. Do you know what I mean? I've been in there several times. So I never really had felt really, really strange or anything. Like one house I lived in, I definitely think there was some weird shit. It was just a creepy house and you felt that way, but I never felt that way. So I don't know. Was it me? Was it the house? I don't know. Who knows?
Well, the first time you told that story, we kind of went, it was a ghost. But now you added the information that this unidentified flying object, which now they call UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon. I think that's what that means.
Mm-hmm.
So UFO, UAP, pretty much the same thing. I mean, is there a connection, or was it maybe, let's just say hypothetically, there was a spaceship with aliens, and that ship flew over that same house. Maybe it wasn't ghosts at all. Maybe it was them. Maybe it was them. Like, hey, we're here. Maybe if you had walked outside the door, maybe you would have saw a ship. Now, do you know if the spaceship story and the haunted house story right around the same time, or
yeah,
you don't really remember how long?
It wasn't. No, it wasn't that.
Weeks? Months?
Probably weeks to months. Because I was a senior when I was dating her, and like I said, I had my class ring on when my brother saw it, and it bounced off the thing. So it had to at least be within probably the year, but I can't remember. I can't recount exactly how soon the events were related. I never even thought of the first was the seeing all the stuff happen, and then he saw the craft. Like I said, I never saw it. I just felt the vibration and heard it and saw that the ring came off of the windowsill.